morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whichever part of the world that you are. And welcome to Learnamytes, where learning is for all and all that we do is for learning. This is the month of March, and on 8th of March, as all of us are aware, we celebrate the International Women's Day. This is our way of saluting, this is our way of acknowledging, this is our way of appreciating the efforts which are put in by all the women who are there in our life, be it one's mother, be it one's spouse, be it one's teacher, a guru, a mentor, or whosoever it is. I pray to all these women. In the month of March, we have also decided at Learnamytes that this entire month we're going to launch and we're going to celebrate what we call as hashtag Shakti. Hashtag Shakti is our way of, acknowledging these women, these powerful women, these powerful souls. So throughout this month, all the videos that you would see would be dedicated to the women power. They are already powerful, but we are just going to do it from us. I would also like to dedicate this entire series, this entire episode, and of course all the videos this month and this initiative of hashtag Shakti to my mother, late Srimati Shobha Vinayak Dhara, who left for heavenly abode last year on 2nd of November 2021. May her soul rest in peace. Today's episode, if I have to talk about it, it's a part of our initiative called Kuch Dil Se. This episode is very special. In fact, this two-part series of episodes is very special to me because I'm going to chat, I'm going to connect. This is going to be a very heartfelt rendezvous with my first boss, Dr. Archana Godbole. Dr. Archana Godbole is a renowned environmentalist. She's also an expert in biodiversity, conservation of forests, and there's this 3 decades of experience. And yes, of course, like I said, the personal connect is she's my guru as well. So without any further ado, let me introduce and let me connect you with Dr. Archana Godbole, who is the founder of AERF, which started in 1994. AERF is Applied Environmental Research Foundation, an organization based out of Pune. So, let's begin. Hi, ma'am.
Hi Girish, so nice to see you
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
talk to you guys,
Thank you
Great.
so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
And ma'am, welcome to Learnamytes officially. And I believe, ma'am, you have been watching Learnamytes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have been watching a couple of episodes and I'm thoroughly impressed. And I think this is a great idea that you have started this because you want to reach out to youngsters and people. And this is the media, YouTube and Insta and all that. Though I'm not very familiar with that, but I'll try my best to tell you about the kind of work which we have been doing for a long time.
Absolutely.
And
ma'am,
thanks for that wonderful introduction.
no, absolutely. I mean it, ma'am.
Yeah.
And of course, it was a pleasure working with you, but that was years before. So, ma'am, Dr. Archana Godbole, AERF, and this entire story or this journey, this wonderful journey. So, if you can take us through that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a long journey, but I think it was absolutely interesting, and I enjoyed every bit of that.
Okay.
And as you know, I always love to talk about AERF and what we have been doing.
Yeah.
But I think it has started long ago when I just finished my MSc Botany from Pune University, and I was just trying to do some work, and that's how my journey of looking to my work differently actually started. And then slowly I realized, and I always thank God for that because otherwise I would have become a researcher writing papers. But there I realized that the real issues are totally different. And if you want to bring some change,
Yeah.
then you need to first understand what are the issues, how people are linked to that. Because it's very easy to say that, hey, don't cut the trees, but then somebody needs fuel, every day, or firewood for cooking. And then therefore people go and cut the forest. And there are, range of other reasons, which I slowly started understanding when I was working with Jagdish. At the same time, I was also studying sacred forest and whatever literature was available in those days. In those days, we never had Google, by the way. So, we used to go to library, and my most best place to find me was Jaikar Library in university. Obviously, Jagdish also was coming there to see me and all that. And finally, in 1989, we got married. Then, before we got married, there was another very interesting thing happened. And that actually changed my perception about the work and what I want to do. And it also introduced me to the Western Ghats, Sahyadri. I was a ardent, you can say, trekker and mountaineer. So I used to travel quite a lot to different forts of Shivaji Maharaj, and with a lot of trekking groups. And but of course, I have realized even in those days when I was in college that my interest is not just climbing the mountains. But I was always interested in looking at what kind of plants are there, what kind of forests are there, what kind of people are there. So I knew Sahyadri, but my understanding was limited to that trekking. But in 1987, Jagdish one day called me and he said, hey, I want you to go with me. I said, where? He said, no, we are organizing a campaign where we will be, traveling, walking for 100 days in Sahyadris. I said, what are you talking? 100 days in Sahyadris? Who's supporting you? What are you going to do? Then he said, no. He was very excited then because he just came back from a meeting in Goa with like-minded people from NGO sector, activists, people who are doing advocacy, and some researchers and journalists. And he said, we had decided that lots of environmental issues are hampering this mountain system. Yeah. And, lots of dams are coming, roads are coming, hydropower projects are coming, and mining is happening. So we want to stop that because we want the biodiversity and forests to be there for the local people who are dependent on those forests. Sounds good, My understanding was really zero in those days. I said, good. Then he said, we have decided that we'll walk. I said, you can't walk, suddenly 100 days. Then he said, no, a lot of, discussion is to be happen, and I want you to be part of that.
Sure.
And, I told them, yes, we will take the responsibility of northern Western Ghats, that is in Maharashtra and Gujarat and Goa. I said, yeah, please go ahead and do that. He said, no, I want you to take that responsibility with me. Then I said, okay. And, you just fall for such things, when if you're fallen in love with somebody. And I was deeply in love with Jagdish. And I said, okay, let's do that. Okay. So then he put me into the central organizing committee of that big campaign. And when I said yes, or I joined the committee, I never knew what I am getting into. So I started attending the meetings, and then we were planning, for almost a year. Lots of meetings went on, and we decided that, Sahyadri mountain range, which is actually there in 6 states, it covers 6 states. Okay. And runs parallel to the western coast of India. And therefore, Britishers and all the Westerners, they started calling that as Western Ghats. But for all of us, the name is Sahyadri. That is the mountain which is tolerating, Yeah. That is what it is called as Sahyadri. So we thought that, let's study and figure out, what is the situation on the ground. Because mostly it is, we just read something in the newspapers or somebody tells us, but then we really don't know what are the issues and how the local communities, they look at these issues, what is their perception and what they want. So we've decided that we will cover all the 6 states. Sure. It was a big thing because I can't speak Kannada or Tamil or Malayalam or whatever, Yeah. So then we started getting in touch with a lot of researchers, activists, and NGOs, mainly working for rural development in India in those days, as well as organizations from Maharashtra.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we only one group cannot cover the whole Sahyadri in 100 days, number one. Secondly, even if we travel, we can't get any perception of the communities because we can't speak language. So then it was decided that we'll have two core groups, and these groups will, one group will start walking from Gujarat and then come to Goa in 100 days, and other group will start walking from Kanyakumari and come to Goa on the same day after walking 100 days. So this campaign was on, and of course we never had a single rupee in our pocket, but still we worked very hard on that. And I think all those 6 to 9 months where me as well as Jagdish 24/7 we were working on organizing this campaign. It gave me a lot of insight into how to organize things, how to deal with people, how to network with people. And we never had WhatsApp and other things, so you have to call, you have to write the letters to people and call them and explain the whole idea. And fortunately, because of Jagdish and people like Kalanan Mani, who was our central coordinator, who is from Goa, because of their name and their long time work on the ground, people responded. And on November 1st, 1987, we started this campaign. And unfortunately, I couldn't walk 100 days because that was not the idea, because I was managing things from Pune.
Yeah.
But the group started, 15 core marchers were there, and they were walking. Then we prepared a questionnaire that what they will ask. So it was a huge task. And Jagdish has written a wonderful book on that, Paschim Ghat Bachao Mohim. That's how we named it later on.
Okay.
And he wrote a book about it, and the Save the Western Ghats campaign completed 25 years in 2012. And AERF organized a celebrating meet for 3 days in Mahabaleshwar, and we tried to get all the old marchers and all. So it was a wonderful time. And in Marathi we have a good expression for that, like Mantar Lele Divas,
Mantar
you
Lele
know.
Divas.
And I was young, I was just barely 25 years old, and it was a great experience for me.
Sure.
And I walked last 25 days or so. And then we met. And in those days I could understand and I could see the destruction happening in Sahyadris, especially in Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg, and northern parts of Western Ghats. Then we also realized that there is no protected area. We have very few in this part of the Sahyadris. So somewhere, the seeds were sown in my mind that I want to do something in this area. Eventually, we got married, and in the meantime, I also felt that I may not be able to do all that, because Jagdish already had his organization and he was more into rural development, whereas my interest was mainly for forest and conserving the forest.
Sure.
And how to stop the rampant deforestation, how people will really get something out of saving forest, because nature lovers like us, who are good, and we don't have to worry about meeting our ends. It is easier for us to say that don't cut the forest, and forests are important for water, for clean air and climate change and whatnot. But then how the person staying next to forest will get benefits and feel the same thing one day about the forest, or we will really understand, what he would like to have from forest. So, I was just working around that. And meantime, I completed my PhD. And my PhD was looking at how the traditional communities or tribal communities from Western Ghats, especially Katkaris and Thakars, they are using the plant resources around them. And what is their knowledge. And the most important hypothesis in my thesis was the traditional forest conservation practices like sacred groves are important for us even in today's context, because we can learn quite a lot for conservation action by looking at these spaces. And then I studied many sacred forests. I did, the documentation of plants and interviewing tribals, and it was again fun time for me. I always believe, if you enjoy your work and if it is bringing a lot of fun to you, you are great. You are on the good path. Slowly, I started meeting some youngsters. My friend Jayan Sarnaik, who's still with me, and then few other people like Vikas and Aparna and Swapna, and we all sat together. And I was kind of a leader who, herself was not very clear about what to do, but obviously I said, let's try and let's do this. So we said, okay, let's form an NGO and see if we can do some conservation work. And therefore, in 1995, we registered Applied Environmental Research Foundation. And one very, really great taxonomist, toxicologist, Dr. Mandlik, he provided a lot of inspiration to us, and he said, go and do it, and try and see what you can do. If you can't do it, you are qualified, you can get another job, don't worry about that. So we started this, and our main goal was achieving conservation on the ground, because by the time, through my PhD, by being with Jagdish, doing Western Ghats March, I have visited many, many organizations, those who were engaged into rural development work and doing watershed management or doing tree plantations, because that was very in thing in those days. As the as the great answer for all the environmental and conservation issues. Then I was meeting a lot of forest officials, but then we realized that we want to do something different, and so probably we were not having much clarity about what is to be done, but we were very clear that what not to do. So we've decided we'll not do tree plantations, we'll not do environmental education programs, because personally I feel that just providing environmental education never brings the change.
Sure.
If for the change you need to do something more along with educating and providing just information to people.
Ma'am, generally these initiatives, it is always said that these are all through participation of people. So how did you go about it? Because like you said, you were a young team of like-minded individuals, and of course there was Jagdish sir also there to guide you. But then you were these young team. So how did you go about it, and how did people participate in this entire initiative, especially in the Konkan region?
So me and Jayant and a couple of friends, we went to Ratnagiri. We landed in Sangameshwar, and that was I think I always feel that it is decided, where you are supposed to reach and do what work. So we were in a small ghat, and in those days there was no tourism in 1994. So we were in a vehicle, and there was a lady standing with very young kids with a lot of luggage in her hand. And so we stopped the jeep and we asked her that where you want to go. She said, I'm going to Devruk, but bus is not coming. What to do? I said, let's go. We are also going to Devruk. So we took her, and on the way, very curiously, she asked that you are all looking young, and there's nothing touristy like in Devruk. What are you doing? Do you have some relatives? He said, no, we don't have any relatives. Yeah. But XYZ told us that there are many Devrais, sacred groves. And so we are just going to stay in one of the organizations there, Matru Mandir. And then we'll explore, if it is possible for us to do some work around that. She said, oh, then you have... met the right kind of a person. I said, why? She said, I'm a logging contractor in this area. I know all the sacred groves in that area, because we can't cut the sacred groves. Okay. We can cut all the other private forests, but not the sacred groves. So I said, okay, then we took her address and all, and for next couple of months, this woman took us to more than 60 sacred forests from Sangameshwar block, because she knew each and everyone. Because she couldn't cut. She said, "Arey, so many great trees are there, but I can't cut them." I said, "Don't cut them now. You can't cut because we are here now." And then we started looking at sacred groves and documenting. Of course, it is again very difficult for us to get money. Who will give money? Because we were young, we never had any, great experience. We had great ideas though.
Yeah.
So we wrote one proposal to an organization from Germany called Miserio, and Miserio gives funding for development work, especially health issues and all. And I knew Miserio because they provided funding to Jagdish's organization for his health work in Pauna catchment area. So then we thought, let's see if they help us.
Yeah.
At the same time, my colleague Jayant, he's a German scholar and he used to speak German. So he said he was going to Germany in 1994-95,
Yeah.
and he said, I know few people from Miserio, so I'll go and I'll give this proposal and let's see if something happens for us.
Sure.
So we wrote a very, very preliminary proposal that we want to study this, and then we said we will do this, we'll do that, we'll save the sacred groves and everything. All the ideas were put in those 2-3 pages. But again, fortunately, Miserio felt, I think they must have felt that, oh, this is a group of very young guys, and they want to do something, so let's give them some money.
Sure.
So they sanctioned some 3 lakhs or something, and they say, okay, do whatever you want to do.
That was I think, ma'am, a big amount.
Yeah, in those days, it was a big amount, but yeah. So we were absolutely happy that we started the organization in 1995, and in 1996 we got this money, and it was amazing. So then we started studying the sacred forests from this area, and again, as luck would have it, we also got another very interesting opportunity for a very young organization in those days, that we were invited to work in Nagaland.
Ma'am, while I was doing my research on AERF, and of course with the number of interactions that we have had over the years, one thing which I'm always amazed, and I know for a fact that you have worked extensively in the northeast region, particularly in Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. So I would like to know, and I'm sure our viewers would also like to know, that what was this journey like, and what was the kind of work that you have done or AERF has did in that period?
Northeast. And when I was working in Botanical Survey of India, one of my friends sent few photographs to me, and he said, you are a plant taxonomist, so why don't you identify these photographs, these plants, So I said, okay. So I just identified those photographs using, of course, the flora of Assam. And then I just wrote those botanical names and I gave it back to him. I forgot about it, I never even bothered to ask him why you are asking me this, but I gave. And then after some time he called me and said, hey, do you have time in the evening? I said, yeah, what's that? He said, no, the resident commissioner of Nagaland, Mr. Gokhale, is here and he would like to see you. I said, why? He said, no, he's impressed because you identified those plants. So I went and I met Mr. Gokhale, and he was an amazing person, spent all his career in the Northeast. And so I went and he showed me a few more photographs and he said, now tell me. So I told him whatever I knew, and he said, okay, do one thing. I want you to work on our project. And he gave me, a lot of information about the ambitious project in the north, in the Nagaland, which is called as Nagaland Environmental Protection and People's Development Project. NAPED in short. And he said, we have started this project and it is a completely different project, and I want you to help us in documenting the biodiversity, the use of biodiversity, which is there among all those indigenous people from Nagaland. But we want to do it more systematically, so would you be happy to come? I said, great. But Gokhale Sahib, being Gokhale Sahib, he never immediately invited me. He sent 4 Naga officers from his unit to Pune, and he said, you train them in botany, you train them in taxonomy. And one person in that group of 4 was a forester, so he knew little botany, but all others were from social sciences and history, whatnot. But then, we organized the training of plant taxonomy and identification plants of plants near Lonavala in Ambone, and we took them around in the forest, and 4 days was amazing, a great period for us. We got very friendly with Nagas, and I still remember these 4 officers were really not very happy, to go all the way from Nagaland to Pune, and that to take a training from a woman. And when my name was written, Dr. Archana Godbole, and Gokhale Sahib never told them, who am I and how old I am and all that. So we went to, pick them up on the train station. They came from Indrayani Express from Bombay. And when all 4 of them, they got down, they looked at me and I said, I'm Archana Godbole. And then I could see a sigh of relief. I said, why? And they started laughing because Naga people, they love laughing, on anything and everything. So they started laughing. I said, why you're laughing? So it is such a relief, because when we saw you, we are so happy. Because we were all the while thinking that we are going to meet a very aged old lady and who's going to take our class. But now by looking at you and your colleagues who are all young, we are happy. And then we had a great time, for next one full week. And then we started working in Northeast also. And in the Northeast, initially we worked with NAPED project. We trained these guys, and it was greatness of Mr. Gokhale and Mr. KV Chusha, who was the local Angami IS officer who was looking after the project implementation. They trusted us so much. So first I went to Nagaland in 1995, and I never knew anything about Nagaland, to be very frank. And then they said, look, we are not expecting any great thing from you in your first visit. So you be here for 10 to 15 days. You go into all the districts of Nagaland. You travel, you figure out what we are doing. What is our idea? What is our plan of the project? And then you tell us, where you can intervene. And I think that kind of freedom to be given to some consultants and who are absolutely young, knowing nothing, I think that trust was absolutely important for us. And then after that, we worked with NAPED for a couple of years. And then because of my networking and my other international trainings and stuff, we also started our own small project about Konyak Nagas, who used to be considered as the most underdeveloped or primitive. I don't like the word primitive because their knowledge is much better than us. But Konyak Nagas were there, and so we wrote a small proposal. I'll tell you that story also a little later. So we started working, and we worked in Nagaland and Arunachal for 6 years. It was a great time. You were so passionate. You're not worrying about money. You just wanted to do something. You come up with ideas, and you are ready to do anything to bring your idea into reality. And then my other colleagues also visited Nagaland, with me a couple of times. And because I always believe, that if you want to do something for nature, if you want to do some change, bring some change, then you need to go and what is out there in the field. You can't sit in your ivory tower or office or whatever and try to do something by reading or whatever. So it was so wonderful in 1995. I remember when I left my job in Botanical Survey of India, and I wrote to Professor S.K. Jain, who's the father of Indian ethnobotany. He's no more now. He just passed last year due to COVID. So he invited me for a International Ethnobiology Congress that happened in Lucknow, because I wrote to him that, sir, I left the job and I'm just doing some work with AERF and all that. And he said, come. So I went, and there I remember Professor Jain took me in front of everybody and said, look at this young woman. She left her job of Botanical Survey of India, and she's out there to bring the change for better. And I think that was absolutely amazing for me. And then I gave a little presentation of whatever little work we did on Devrai so far. In those days. And in those days, we used to have the OHP slides. You remember? Plastic sheets. Yeah. So I gave that presentation, and there the international group, People and Plants Initiative, the representatives of that group, Gary Martin and Daryl Posey, they were there. And they happened to be there in my presentation. And after that, I got really friendly with Daryl Posey, who was a great professor of ethnobotany again, who started work on ethnobotany in Kayapo Indians in Brazil long time ago. And uh, so I was in touch with him, and of course that was little later. But then the conference was over. I came back, and we were into our own work. And suddenly I started phone calls from a couple of friends whose fax machine we used to use, because we never had fax. So I said, "Arey, somebody is so after you, and they want you immediately." I said, "What happened?" He said, "So many fax that guy, some Martin, sent. My role is over, that fax role." So I went and I picked up, and then I realized that Gary Martin has invited me for a workshop on agroforestry and ethnobotany in Thailand and China in 1995. And then that was really the great time.